I want to demonstrate today the process of cleaning up after a failed print. So I've got my printing workstation here, and I've got a couple of things that I'm going to use to clean up, all ready to go. One of the things I'm not going to use is this box cutter here, so I'll set that aside. I've got a cloth here. This I got in a pack of, I think, 24 from Amazon. These are indispensable. I'll use these up a lot and just wash them in the washer. Scraper that comes with it. My box here that contains my isopropyl rubbing alcohol. A filter here. This is a tea filter I got off of Amazon that I use for straining resin back into the cup, or rather back into the containing, back into the container. I've got my silicone squeegee here, which is key. Cleaning up fast and easy depends heavily on this squeegee. And the plastic scraper. This is a plastic razor scraper. It's got basically it's a plastic razor blade held in a plastic holder, and this is what I'll use to scrape stuff off of the vat. So I've got my failed print here. First thing I'm going to do is take the top off, and then I need to get this build plate ready to go. Now, before I just go ahead and take the build plate off, there's a whole bunch of liquid resin all over this build plate, and I'm going to need to, I want to kind of get that off the build plate before I start moving it around. And so I'm going to go with the silicone scraper here and basically scrape along the top here, and then off the side. Actually, in this case, I started the print with a lower level of resin, so there actually isn't anything at the top here. But what I would normally do is I would scrape along and perpendicular to the edge, and that'll pretty much cause the resin to drop straight down into the vat. Then I'm going to need to do something similar along the bottom. I'm going to need to scrape along the bottom edge. I am getting some resin there, and get that back in the vat so this build plate isn't all wet and drippy when I take it off the build plate. So I'm just going to push the resin along here to kind of break the surface tension, let it drop down, and then I'll also kind of scrape off the silicone scraper here against the edge. Okay, so this is reasonably drippy. If you leave this here for a little bit to let it drip down on its own, then it won't be super drippy when you come to clean it up. Then I'm going to get the IPA ready for me to put the build plate into. So I'm going to unscrew the build plate, and then I'll also carefully tilt it, get it a little bit cleaner into the vat, and then also over here I'll scrape a little more in order to make sure that I get as much resin as possible back into the vat rather than into my IPA cleanup kit. So here you can see what happened. There's a bunch of attachment points down here. They weren't neither dense enough nor thick enough, and so they broke off. And we'll take a look at what's left in the vat afterward and see. Because this is a little bit messy right now, I'm not going to bother doing anything with it. It's just going to go straight into the vat. I'm going to get a little IPA onto this so I don't leave a trail of resin dripping off of my scraper, and then I'm going to close this up. All right. Move this over a little bit. I'm going to make a bit of space and then I'm going to have to drain the resin out of my vat and put it back into my bottle. And so this is a bit of fun to do industrial blend. It's got some pigments that I got from Tap Plastics added to it to make it a little black, a little gray. So this is the bottle. It's a glass UV resistant bottle. I think I got 6 for $10 from Amazon, shipped Amazon Prime. So I've got here in 2 days or less. And this is what I've been storing resin in. I'm going to go and put the tea strainer on top of this. And then I need to use the handy dandy wrench here. Undo the screws. Just a couple of turns. Wasn't on that tightly to begin with. And then I'm going to get the bed off. And then, where is it? I've actually already got something covering the projector. You might not be able to see it from, you probably can't see it from this angle, but right after I stopped, I put a board. It's a print bed from another, from a filament printer, old print bed that I'm using to just sit over the projector. That way, just in case there's any drips during this process, I won't drip down into the projector. So that's in place. I'm gonna go grab the vat, and you'll see that there is a print in here stuck to the vat that I'm gonna have to deal with. Dripped a little resin, so I'll clean that up. And then I'm going to need to pick a corner to pour from. So you're supposed to, use all 4 corners. In particular, I was bad when I first started using this vat. I used, I think, this corner more than the rest because this is the easiest corner for me, being right-handed, for me to grip it firmly with my left hand. And this top flap here is a little bit loose, so I'm not using that corner anymore. My 2 strongest corners actually are here, where the kind of the long end that sticks out, clamps down the vat is. And so I'm going to pour from here. And that, of course, is going to leave a little overspray. And what's going to happen is I'm not going to be pouring with enough force for the resin to kind of just evenly come out of the edge. It's going to drip down the back, and that's okay. So I'm going to pour out my resin. Gotta be patient pouring this. You don't want any resin spills. That would be sad, because if resin is messy stuff. You'll see that there's actually quite a lot of resin left up here. Oops, that dripped. I'm gonna put that drip. And I don't want to have to. You see, I'm lucky a little bit. Actually, the surface tension is breaking. A lot of times, the surface tension doesn't break on its own. I don't want to have to throw away all this resin. More importantly, have to get rid of this resin in soap and water. So I'm going to use the silicone scraper, which is nice and soft, and use it like a squeegee to get the resin, encourage the resin to come down into the corner. So I'll squeegee it a bit. I'll pour. Squeegee a bit more. I'll flip the squeegee since it's at an angle. Get some of this stuff down here. Pour. And you don't want to push too hard, especially against the film edge, because these films are glued on not extremely strongly. So you don't want to put stress on those. That's the part where you'd be scared that if that failed during the print, you would get resin dripping down all over. So I'll push a little down here. I'm dramatizing this a little bit. This is a little bit easier than usual because I used a bit less resin than usual. So normally this would take a bit. It wouldn't be as it would take you know, a bit of scraping. Here I'm doing pretty good. I'm getting almost all of it the first time. But that would be it. And now I would be ready to get that part off. So there's a little resin drip on the side. I'm going to wipe that up with this cloth. Now the bottom is reasonably clean. And take this, and I'm going to this is resin, so I'm going to put this into that well. Alright, I'll leave that there. Too many things at once. Okay. Okay, dripped a little resin here. Get rid of that. And I'll put down the vat, and we'll deal with the stuff that got stuck on. So I'm gonna use this up. I'll wipe up any spills. Put that off to the side. There's always going to be a little bit of drip. And then now I got to deal with this bit here that came off. And that actually is pretty easy. This is a square calibration part, and I just come at it off at one of the corners with the plastic razor scraper, and then break the vacuum. Right, it's being held on by vacuum force. Other than the vacuum force, this thing moves quite easily, and then it sticks up. So I pull that off. All set. This guy's pretty much trash, but I drop it in the IPA just so that I don't throw away any liquid resin. I'll rinse this a bit. This is clean. Wipe off. This. I can put this off to the side. Now we're going to need to go to a sink to finish the cleanup of this vat. You'll see the vat is actually quite clean. It's about 95% of the way there, but I do need to get rid of all the resin with soap, particularly in the corners here where you don't want the resin to attack the joint. So the kit I brought over to the bathroom is pretty simple. There's the vat, my cloth, and the squeegee. Already here at my guest bathroom cleaning station is distilled water, IPA, which hopefully I won't need, and ivory dish soap. Everybody else seems to use Dawn. Ivory is what I happen to have here. And so it's a relatively light duty cleanup job. I'm going to put some dish soap in here. Good generous amount, but way less than I used to use. I've got some water. Put a little water in here. I'm going to swirl it around. And I'm going to use a scraper to kind of make sure that it gets all over. and I'm gonna try to gently break up any pools of resin that may be lying around. And then once it gets in contact with the soapy water, the soapy water will take care of making sure the resin doesn't reattach. Change my angle here. Actually, I'm simply going to rotate so I can get at the other two corners more easily. Okay, so there's a bit of dried up resin on the bottom, probably for support or something that I missed. So I'm gonna need the plastic razor scraper. Need this out again. Gently push that over. Okay, so that's fine. And I'm going to wet this. Now, you say, whoa, you expended this cloth. And it's true, this came in a pack of 20. And this is a microfiber. And I do usually use it to soak up this this water so that it also gets a little soapy. And I want this cloth soapy so that it also cleans up some of the resin that I got into it when I was cleaning up. So I will use, one of these cloths for each printing session. One thing is that I won't do this between every print. I'm just going to go back and print again. I'll squeegee, the procedure I showed you in the other room, but I won't do this until I'm done for the whole day. That's good. That's good. All right. It's really hard water in my place, so I will, to prevent spots from appearing, I'll actually shoot this with distilled water. And this is just regular distilled water, got a Target. And I'll hit it all over with distilled water so that I don't get any hard water spots. If you don't have hard water, if your water isn't spotting, then you won't need to do this. that's it. The vat is clean, and I'll just let it dry off to the side, and then it'll be ready to go again. Alright, so back from the sink, I'm going to put the vat back over there to dry, and then I'm going to cover it up so I don't get any dust. And then I gotta finish up cleaning this this build plate. Scrapers back. Here's the now wet towel, which is totally fine for this purpose. So all the resin's off. I'm going to use the scraper again to squeegee the alcohol back in here so that it's not such a dripping mess all over. This guy's done. Cover this up a bit, and then I'm going to need to get the base off the build plate, which I can do pretty easily with the metal scraper. No problems with the metal scraper against this anodized aluminum, so as you're careful not to take a slash at it, which of course there's no reason to unless you're perhaps extremely angry. Come at the side, comes off. And so this is the failed base here, but now I'm all cleaned up and ready to go. Ready to go out, and then everything will be dry and ready for me to print again when I come back.